Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest Minty Reacts, not Minty Reacts, this is Minty Minutes. Wow, what am I talking about? Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Minty Minutes, the podcast, not the reaction show. But either way, here we are for the next episode of Minty Minutes, and it's a fun one. It's going to be a fun one. I actually watched movies this past month, so I actually have things to talk about, and not just life updates. Though, there are also some life updates. But either way, I actually do have things to talk about. In fact, I have 5 things to talk about, and then life updates as well, which is pretty fun. I finally have an actual packed episode of Minty Minutes. It's a good time. It's a good time. But anyway, I hope everyone's doing well today. Hope everyone's doing well, and welcome to the podcast. So, as you can see on the screen, if you're watching the screen, and if you're just listening to the audio, hello, I have 5 things today. I'm going to be talking about at least the first couple episodes of Agatha All Along, because it dropped finally on Disney Plus because of spooky season. It's been really good so far, I've got to say. Talk about the first episode of The Penguin, because at the time of this recording, I've only seen the first episode. I'm pretty sure episode 2 has dropped at the time of the recording, but I've only watched the first episode so far. Also very good too. Then I'm going to talk about 3 movies, one of them being an Amazon original called Totally Killer. Figure spooky season, so might as well get into the swing of things with some spooky movies. Then I finally watched the TMNT Mutant Mayhem movie, amazing. And then I finally got to see, I saw the TV Glow, which I have some thoughts about. But either way, before we get into all of that, let me just do a mini little life update. The mini life update is I have a new job. The last time that I did the Minty Minutes, I was talking about how things had been very wild a bit, and I had a job making some burritos and stuff. Well, I do not have that job anymore. It was an amicable split because I got a different job that just offered me way more hours. And the funniest thing is that this new job I got is actually at my local game and comic store that I frequent all the time, to the point where like I kind of almost live there because I'm there so much, and I mean that metaphorically. I do not actually live there. It just feels like it because I'm there so much. Well, now they hired me, so I actually work there now, and it's a full-time job. So I'm going to, now that I actually have a full-time job, I can try and schedule out my recordings and stuff and editing a little bit better. I am still ahead on most of my recordings for this month, but I will say that I'm going to make an actual community post about this as well. I am going to push back the Legend of Vox Machina Season 3 reactions until November, for when the series is actually fully out, so that way I can record it ahead of time, like I've been doing the other recordings as well, rather than try to rush and record it the same week, given that I'm not entirely sure of what my schedule is going to be week to week, other than it being a full-time schedule. So that gives me a little extra headway, a little extra time to be able to record things. But either way, I've been there for, now this is my 4th day at the time of the recording. By the time of the episode going up, I would have been there for a week, and I love it. I absolutely love it, which I thought I was. It's a lot of basic retail stuff, as you would expect it to, with like some little nuances because game and comic store, but it's really fun. All the clientele that come in there are great. It's really fun being there to see the events happen. Like at the time of this recording, I'm just going to keep saying that. At the time of this recording, there was Magic the Gathering the previous night, or last night, and there was a lot of people in there. There were a lot of people. And it was just kind of cool just seeing people all just having a good time playing some nice Magic and stuff. But yeah, so that's basically the life update in general. Also, me and my girlfriend have celebrated our 2-month anniversary, which is pretty fun. Love you and stuff. So that's always good too. But beyond all that, let us get into the talky things about the things that we're talking about. Haha, words. So yeah, let me just talk about, as I said in the order that I presented before, let me talk about Agatha All Along first. So the first 3 episodes are out. It dropped the first 2 episodes on the last Wednesday, something like that, and then dropped the 3rd one this week, obviously, because that's how releases go. And this one was a really anticipated one for me, I will be honest, because I really like Catherine Hahn, and I really like her as a character of Agatha. Given that Agatha is a very intriguing character in Marvel Comics that both is very important to certain things and also not at all. She's an interesting character. But I really enjoyed her portrayal of the character of Agatha in WandaVision. I also just loved WandaVision. It was probably my favorite of the Disney Plus series so far, just in general, which is ironic given that it's the first one that came out. Yeah, I think it's still the best one. Not the best one. Not the best one. Loki, I think, is still the best one. But WandaVision is my favorite. But either way, Agatha All Along, it is a continuation of WandaVision and kind of a continuation of Multiverse of Madness, which I do not like, personally. I don't like Multiverse of Madness just from how it was arranged, though I do need to watch it again at some point. The Sam Raimi-isms, I think, are fine in the movie. It's just the overall movie was not what I was expecting it to be. But beyond all that, that's a whole different story, and that was for literally my very first video I uploaded on the channel that I is now privated because it's really old. But anyway, Agatha All Along is picking up literally right where WandaVision kind of left off and right where Multiverse of Madness left off. And spoilers for the MCU if you're not fully caught up with it. Apologies. But according to the show, Wanda's dead. Scarlet Witch is dead. However, she's not really. But the first episode's cool. The first episode is really fun and very cool because it's very WandaVision-esque, where it starts off as a kind of like a satire parody of another show that Catherine Hahn is on as like a detective show, because Agatha is like trapped in her mind from the end of WandaVision, where Wanda trapped her in her own psyche. So that's a really cool thing. And then we get the introduction of Aubrey Plaza, who is playing a character named Rio Vidal, who is going to be a comic book character. Rio Vidal is not, but she is a comic book character. She has teased this a bunch, and a bunch of people have teased this, and the show is already off to a great start of doing the teases for us. Just like WandaVision gave us Mephisto teases, this show is giving us teases for other things, and I will not say them fully in case you haven't watched the series yet. However, we did actually get a name drop of the Big M, I will say. Mephisto was, in fact, actually name dropped finally in episode 3. I know it's a spoiler, I apologize. But it's just kind of funny, the fact they actually said his name. It's just funny to me. It's just really funny. But either way, so the show is basically following Agatha as she gathers a coven of witches that she hasn't killed, to then go down this ancient witch ceremony called the Witch's Road to regain their power. Because all the witches basically are like on the fritz a little bit. They don't have their full power set. Agatha doesn't have her powers at all at this point, and she wants to get her powers back. And it's also brought about by meeting this teenager named Joe Locke, who in the show we have learned he has a name. He clearly has a name. We just don't know what his name is. We don't know who this kid is at all. He clearly knows magic of some sort. He clearly has a lot of knowledge about the history of magic and the history of witches. We just don't know who the hell he is, because anytime he tries to say his name, his mouth just goes blah, 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 and we can't hear his name. And we thought it was just Agatha, but no, it's actually a lot of people that can't hear him. So again, minor spoilers, but that's the whole thing that Lily explained like the first episodes. But either way, so we all have theories about who Joe Locke is playing, and we've had theories from the very beginning about who he's playing. We don't know who he is. He is literally just identified as teen or teenager or teeny in the show, which is very funny. But either way, this cast is also stacked. It is also stacked as hell. Like we have Deborah Jo Rupp returning from WandaVision. We have Shashir Zamata as the potion maker witch, which is pretty cool. Aubrey Plaza, as I mentioned, who I love Aubrey Plaza. Patti LuPone is in it. The legendary Patti LuPone is in it as like this like right hand kind of Agatha. And then we have Ali On as the protection witch of Alice, which is just cool, which is really cool. And then so far, this show is doing a really good job of just introducing the actual full concept of magic into the MCU, and that is such a funny thing to say given how many magic characters we have in the MCU already that aren't magic, like Doctor Strange, who is the Sorcerer Supreme. Except he doesn't use magic in the MCU. He uses weird interdimensional stuff. Or like all the sorcerers from Kamartaj. Nope, they're all dimensional beings or whatever, or like Dormammu, who is supposed to be like an ultimate evil magic user. He's just a big dark dimension guy. And it's like, okay, sure, whatever. Or the Asgard, like literally all the Asgardians are like, hey, they're supposed to be using magic, but no, it's just weird, very future technology, even though they basically dropped that after the first movie, which is just really funny to me. But either way, we're actually getting an introduction of magic, and Jack Schaefer, the showrunner, the director of the show, is really excited about that, which I'm really cool with. Really cool that they actually are able to explore the side of magic of the MCU and actually be able to explain like the different colors of magic, what they all mean. That's all really cool. So far, 3 episodes into the series, I'm really loving it. I'm really digging it. I am very excited to see where it's going, and it is definitely keeping my interest, just like WandaVision did with the teases of who Aubrey Plaza's playing, and also the side plot of who the hell is Joe Locke, which we as a community kind of have an idea of who he's playing, just based on context clues of the MCU. We kind of know who he's playing, we just don't know who he is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to say my theories or anything for either of these characters, because there might be spoilers, and I don't want to do that, even though I've already spoiled some stuff. I apologize for that. My mouth just gets talking sometimes. But yeah, so far, Agatha All Along, great. I highly recommend it, especially if you liked WandaVision. I highly recommend watching it. And the other thing about Agatha All Along is, like, the debut episodes were, like, 9 million viewers, like, in the first day, which is, like, that's really cool. Good job. Good job, Agatha. You did a good job. Everybody loves Catherine Hahn, basically. So, that's Agatha All Along. It's great so far. I really enjoyed it. Another series that I have also really enjoyed so far, even though I've only seen the first episode of it, is The Penguin, the follow-up to Matt Reeves' Batman movie from, like, 2 years ago at this point. That feels weird to say, but from, like, 2 years ago. The Penguin, or, as I have been jokingly calling it, La Penguino. So The Penguin is following, obviously, Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin, following the events of the Batman. After Gotham got flooded by the Riddler, it's basically him picking up the pieces and picking up the crime stuff. And it is very, very, very good. Like, this series is so good. The best way to describe it is, like, it's expanding this Matt Reeves Batman verse so much while keeping it so small and focused on just the Penguin. Colin Farrell is still unrecognizable as Oswald Cobblepot. It is actually mind-blowing and, like, mind-boggling how this man is playing this character, and you're not able to tell it's even Colin Farrell. It is scary. Like, it is absolutely scary. But he is phenomenal in it, and we get to see a nice lot of, like, good humanization of Oz and why the Penguin does what he does. And, like, kind of setting up those building blocks for how he becomes, like, this kingpin in Gotham, and it is phenomenal. There are also a lot of nice, like, little references to Batman things without being, like, overt, like, hey, this is a thing, this is, like, a reference to Robin or whatever, but, like, nice, like, subtle references, like, okay, cool, if you're a comic book fan, you'll know what that is. Like, for example, there's like, a jewelry shop that is named after the original actor of the Penguin from the Adam West Batman series. That's cool. That's a nice little Easter egg. That is a pretty standard Easter egg that most DC properties have, which is really cool. Just, like, naming a building after, like, a famous artist or a writer or, like, an actor that played the character. It's really cool. I really enjoy that. However, there's also a lot of really interesting things storyline-wise with this series that it feels like Matt Reeves is pulling ideas and pulling beats from a bunch of different, really good Batman stories to set up his universe, and they're all working very, very good together. Like, they're all working very well together. And I think what they're honestly doing overall with this series is I feel like they're taking the ideas of these famous Batman stories, like The Long Halloween, like the possibly the War of Jokes and Riddles, No Man's Land, there's a couple other ones as well, I forgot the names of them, but taking those storylines, and instead of them being like Batman retelling those stories, they're just showing the stories, which I think is such a great idea to do. But also with this series, we're getting to see the full breadth of like the criminal underbelly of Gotham, which is really cool. Like in the first episode, we get introduced to Salvatore Maroni, which is played by the legendary Clancy Brown. So we got Mr. Krabs in here as like the #2 mob boss, which is great. They did have to recast Carmine Falcone, even though Carmine as a character died in the Batman. That happens, a big deal. Well, they technically recast him for like flashbacks and stuff, but it's also Mark Strong, who is also phenomenal. And there wasn't any like animosity or anything for recasting. It was literally because John Turturro just couldn't come back because of scheduling conflicts. So it's fine. But either way, I think it was John Turturro. I think it was. Anyway, I might have said the actor's name wrong, but whatever. So Mark Strong is now playing Carmine Falcone. That's pretty cool. But then we also get the introduction of Sophia Falcone, played by Christina Milioti, who was the mom on How I Met Your Mother, who, you know, they should have just ended the series there, but they didn't. They kept going, and then it ruined it. Anyway, she's always wanted to play a Batman villain, which is really cool, and I love the fact that she's in here as Sophia Falcone, who is in the comics, and in one of the comics, I think it was actually Long Halloween, she's referred to as, like, the Hangman, or somebody's referred to as the Hangman. Well, they refer to her as that in the show, which is really cool. It's like, that's awesome. That's really cool. They actually are fully referencing that, and that she is fully in here as this that's like the awesome character that is like connected to crime families, and she is stunningly killer in this show. Like, her acting is off the charts in this show. It is so great. She is like just her presence on screen is just so utterly scary without her doing much. It's just there. It's like, wow, she can kill anyone and get away with it, pretty much. That's just the way it feels. And beyond all that, we do have Oz taking up a protege, basically, of this street kid named Victor, and he basically takes pity on him because Victor has a stuttering problem. And from what we can tell just from the first episode, it's probably Oz takes a liking to him because he also notices that he has a setback, just like Oz does, and he takes a liking to him because he's like, hey, we're like the same. And he's like teaching him the ropes of the street, and it's really cool. It is honestly really, really cool. And I really like that. I really like that a lot because, again, it humanizes the Penguin. It humanizes Oz, while also expanding this world a bit. But either way, also the look of the show is so great. It's still written by Matt Reeves, and this man can write like 100%. He can write. But like the whole thing is also the cinematography by Darren Tiernan. Phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, this series so far is great. I cannot wait to see where it goes, because supposedly the series by the end of it does fully connect and fully tie in to the Batman 2, and I am very excited for that whenever that comes out, whenever Matt Reeves is finished writing it. He takes a long time to write the things that he's writing. Oh, Matt Reeves. He's a great writer. He's a great writer, great director, great filmmaker, but my God, he takes a long time to write things. But either way, I love this show so far. The ambiance of it, the feel of it, everything about it just feels great as a show. It definitely feels like an HBO show, which is awesome. Because it's been a while since we've had like not really a while, but it has felt like a while since we've had like a good HBO show like this. And man, I love it. I love it so much. So now on to the movies and the films that I watched this past month. I only watched 3 of them, as I mentioned before. I wanted to watch some more, but, you know, life got in the way. I also haven't really gone to the theater like at all this month because I have not had the time. But there's definitely some stuff in theaters I want to go see. Like, I've heard the new Transformers movie is great, and I really want to go see that. And then also spooky season. It's spooky season. Also, I want to go see the new Alien. I haven't seen the new Alien yet. I love Alien. But either way, on to the movies. So the first one I watched this month was called Totally Killer, and it is a movie that I remember hearing about. I think I remember watching a trailer for it or something, and I completely forgot about it until I was looking on Amazon Prime for just some movies to watch, and found it. And I was like, hey, let me watch this. Pardon all the yawning as well. It is early in the morning when I'm recording this. But either way, So Totally Killer is a horror comedy slasher. So it's like a dark comedy slasher film, starring Kiernan Shipka, who is amazing. I love Kiernan Shipka a lot. I should actually really go back and watch in general the Sabrina the Teenage Witch series that she was in. I just like Kiernan Shipka. I think she's great. Especially since like she's actually becoming like an actor now. I say actor. She's getting into more roles. I like seeing her in these roles because I think she works really well in a lot of these roles, especially in like the horror comedy space. I think she's really good there. She has like some great comedic timing with this stuff, and I think she does horror very well. But anyway, Totally Killer. So basically the general premise of the movie is that in this town there was a series of murders that happened around Halloween in the 80s. And the main character, Kiernan Shipka, Jamie Hughes, her mom was one of the friend group that of these people that were murdered. And then like 30 years later, you know, it's like the big touristy thing for the town around Halloween is these murders. There's like a podcaster dude who's like, yes, this is a town of these murders, and he like does a podcast about it or whatever. You know, making fun of like true crime stuff, which is fun. I do like that a lot. And then like some stuff happens as well where the killer comes back, and it's like, oh no, the killer's back. And spoilers for the very beginning of the movie, but Jamie's mom dies. She gets killed by the killer, and it's like, oh no, that's not good. The killer's back. So then in the most hilarious of ways, because I love horror comedy, skipping over some stuff to not fully spoil things in the beginning of the movie, time travel gets introduced, and Jamie goes back in time to the 1980s, where the idea then is to stop the killer from ever killing anyone, to then prevent the killer from killing her mom in the future. And of course, if you all know how time travel works, hilarity will then ensue. So, it's a slasher comedy about time travel. And it is so good. It is so good. It is my kind of, like, horror movie. I love horror, okay, just in general, as you all probably know from this channel, as I've talked about a bunch. I haven't really done too many, like, reactions to horror things on the show, or on this channel, but I have talked about horror things a bunch. I love horror, okay? I also really love slashers films. I really like slasher films because of just the production, I guess, and the behind-the-scenes stuff about them. Just, like, seeing like, the practical effects and everything, I think is very fun for slasher films, and also just to see the creativity that goes into these. But I love horror comedy more than anything, because I feel like, I just know this for a fact, in terms of like the emotional spectrum when it comes to cinematics, when it comes to filmmaking, or just acting in general, horror and comedy, or fear and laughter, are like the exact same, which is why Jordan Peele was able to like transition from like hard comedy to horror or thriller so easily, because it takes basically the same amount of timing to do comedy as it does to do horror, because it basically does the same things in your brain. It's all about timing. It's all about like ebbs and flows of the emotional spectrum while you're watching a thing, and this movie does it very well. It does it so well. It actually really reminded me of like a Grady Hendrix novel, or a Grady Hendrix story. Not any in particular. It just reminded me of one of his style of stories, where it's like it's horror comedy, because that's like what I felt all of Grady Hendrix's works have been, is just like horror comedy but in book form. And this movie also gave me heavy My Best Friend's Exorcism vibes as well, which makes sense because it is Amazon, and they also did that one too, and that also isn't a Grady Hendrix property. But yeah, so it's a horror comedy with time travel. It's very funny. They basically gloss over the whole time travel aspect of it because it's funny, and they're like, we're not going to explain this because there's no reason to explain this. It just worked. We're just going to move past it. We have other things to worry about. And it's like, you know what? Completely and utterly fair. Like, we have other things to deal with in this film than the aspects of time travel. They also make fun of other time travel movies as well, about how they like over-explain things and makes it way more confusing. I love that. They also just make fun of the 80s, just in general, where they're like, wow, the 80s were kind of messed up. Just in general, the 80s were real messed up. And as someone who was not alive during the 80s, I agree. I just agree. But I've heard from my parents who were alive in the 80s that they are not wrong. The 80s were a very wild time. I also do like how, comparing like this show to like Stranger Things, where Stranger Things also takes place in the 80s and it's like a horror thing as well. This shows more of a realistic view of the 80s, maybe a little more like satirically realistic, a bit more cynical, I guess, version of the 80s. But that's the more realistic version from what I'm aware of, as opposed to Stranger Things, which is like, this is the idyllic version of the 80s. Which is just funny. It's just very funny. But yeah, I love this movie so much. I was so glad I actually watched this. And I got a few others on the old playlist for Amazon that are like spooky season type movies that I will be watching for October as well for the next 50 minutes. But yeah. Pardon all the yawning. I am so sorry, everyone. My bad. But yeah, definitely watch Totally Killer if you're a fan of horror or comedy. It is really good. Also, the cast is fun. It's a really fun cast. But yeah, it's a good movie. I highly recommend it, especially if you like horror comedies. It is a very good time. Another movie that's a very good time is the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, Mutant Mayhem, which I had heard was a phenomenal movie. I had heard it. One of my best friends that I play a lot of card games with and board games with is a massive TMNT fan. Like, he is a lifelong TMNT fan, to the point where he actually has like an autographed and like the actual email of Kevin Eastman, just because he's just that much of a fan or whatever, which is pretty cool. I will say, like, that is very cool. But TMNT Mutant Mayhem, I had been interested in watching it since it came out last year. Because I love animated movies, just straight up in general. I absolutely love animated movies. And the style of this movie, like the actual art style and animation, was so unique and so interesting that I'm like, I need to watch this at some point, because this movie looks phenomenal. And lo and behold, it was phenomenal. Just also, in general, the cast of this movie was nuts. Just absolutely mind-blowingly nuts. Everyone was cast so perfectly, it's wild. And like, all the turtles were actually cast as like teenagers, like legitimate teenagers were playing them, and it felt very nice to have actual teenagers voicing teenagers. It felt nice, especially since they can now grow up with these characters and it can be like a whole thing. That's really cool. But I really found the whole story of the movie very interesting as again an origin story for the TMNT, but not like an origin story, but like a little like post origin, like post ooze, into just like their first actual like time out into New York doing stuff, and the fact that the movie introduced like all of the mutant characters we're gonna need to know in this movie, I think is a great idea. So we don't have to like worry about reintroducing them later or anything. We just basically have the mutants now. They are in here. We can use them, and they have been using them in the follow-up TV series. I forgot what the TV series is called. It's a TV series. They have an anime series now as well, which is great. Which is really cool. Really cool. And also, just based on the post-credit scene, they are going to make a sequel to it, which they, again, have already started doing TV series, but they are going to do a sequel to it just based on the post-credit scene. Also, the movie did really well. The movie did like really well, from what I heard. It reviewed very well. I'm pretty sure it made a good amount of money. It made $180 million, which is good, I think. I think that's good. Let me check real quick to make sure it actually is good. Yeah, it made a profit. It made a profit. Not as much of a profit as probably they were hoping it would have, but it made a profit. And, you know, it made a profit enough that they now have a spin-off TV series, and they will probably do a sequel because it's TMNT. It's what they do. But it was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, the art style of it was very Spider-Verse, and I love how ever since Spider-Verse came out, basically animation studios past that, or after that movie came out, animation studios got the idea of, we can just do cool things with these movies because they're animated, and we can have fun art styles and just break rules. Let's do that. And it's great. Which is really mind-blowing to me, the fact that, like, other studio, like, the big ones haven't really done that yet. Like, DreamWorks hasn't really done a movie that breaks animation styles. Disney 100% has not. Pixar, Pixar's in their own, like, sphere. They're in their own bubble of, like, damn, they're making things look way too realistic at this point, which is just amazing. But, like, Disney didn't really with Wish. They, like, really went very low with that one and just went very, very safe, and it was not that good. DreamWorks hasn't really done something, I'm pretty sure, with that level of, like, animation. I think maybe the latest Kung Fu Panda, possibly. It's been a while since I've actually realized, since I've actually kind of seen... Oh, actually, no, my bad. DreamWorks has Puss in Boots, Last Wish. Before you flame in the comments, Puss in Boots Last Wish did do some very good things with their animation, so never mind, it's only been Disney. It has only been Disney then that hasn't done cool things with their animation yet. So, Disney, step up your game. Step up your game, multi-billion-dollar tyrannical company. Step up your game. But yeah, TMNT, Mutant Mayhem, phenomenal. I highly, highly, highly recommend watching it. If you're a TMNT fan, you will love it, because they do some great things in there. There's a lot of really nice, like, deep cut references to things that, like, only TMNT fans will know. And I think they also set up the entire world very well. Very well for future movies, for shows, for everything. I think it's very well. I also need to watch the show. I've seen some clips from it, and it's very funny. I really love the comedy in it. Also, the comedy in the movie as well isn't bad. It isn't, like, lowbrow. It isn't, like, childish. And it is a little childish, but they're also teenagers, so it makes sense for the characters. And it's only, like, it's only, like, the turtles that are making those kind of jokes. It's not, like, the movie making those jokes. It's just the turtles that are. So it feels realistic that way, because, again, they're teenagers. They're making jokes as teenagers. It's a little cringe sometimes, but you kind of laugh at it, and the other character's like, bro, you need to stop that. You're kind of being cringe. And it's like, that makes sense. Also, the soundtrack of this movie is great. It is like a bunch of 90s hip-hop, and it is phenomenal. I don't know whose idea it was to, like, mash up the Turtles with 90s hip-hop, and I don't know when that became a thing, but please keep doing it, because it's amazing, okay? Like, it is amazing. I love 90s hip-hop. It's just so great, and it just works so well with the TMNT. I don't know why. It just does. But this movie's great. Watch this movie. Now, the last thing I'm going to be talking about today is a movie that I was really highly anticipating. It was from A24. I saw the TV Glow. I was really anticipating it, given what the trailers kind of presented it as this, like, psychological horror thriller type of thing, about, like, possibly, like, a haunted / cursed TV show, maybe some, like, not time travel stuff, but, like, time jumpy kind of stuff. And it was interesting, to say the least. It was very interesting, and this is nothing on the actors or anything, or the like Jane Schonenbrunn, who is the director-writer. Nothing on any of them, okay? Nothing on any of them. I think this was more my expectations got the better of me for this one, because my expectations for it were completely different than what the movie was delivering and what the movie was basically trying to be about. So basically, also the sound, I will say this off the jump, positive note, the look of the movie, loved it. However, the soundtrack as well, loved it even more. Like, the soundtrack was phenomenal, and it reminded me so heavily of, like, Life is Strange, because it was just a lot of, like, really good indie music that I just love. I just really like indie music, and I think there's even some of the songs that were actually used in Life is Strange, I'm pretty sure. If not, then I had them in an indie playlist of things I was listening to that remind me of Life is Strange, and it basically did that. Again, the look of the movie I thought was great. I thought the look of it was all great. I think the directing was fine. I think, like, everything there was fine. The editing, I think, was okay for what they were going for. It's just the actual story of the movie was not what I was expecting, and not necessarily what I was like going. It's not what I was thinking the movie was about. So going into it again, I thought it was about like a cursed haunted TV series or something like that. That like plays with like your mind or something, kind of like a Candle Cove. If anybody's seen that or read the creepypasta of Candle Cove, I thought it was going to be something like that. It wasn't. It was more a very large scale metaphor, like artistic metaphor for being trans, which is really cool, and I really support that. I do very much support that. It's just not what I was expecting the movie to be about, and I think the metaphor of the film, I think, is done very well and very lovingly. It's, again, just not what I was expecting based on what I thought the movie was, and unfortunately I am just kind of judging the movie on what I thought it was, as opposed to what we actually got. And that's on me. That's completely on me. But I appreciate the metaphor of the movie, which I'm pretty sure, if it wasn't actually about that, then that's just what resonated with a lot of people. I saw a lot of reviews on like Letterboxd about of people like saying how that they felt very comfortable watching this movie, and about how this movie like spoke to them a lot as like a trans person after they have already transitioned or came out. I thought that was very cool. Like, if that's actually what this movie was about, then that's amazing, and I love it, and I'm so glad that it spoke to so many people. Again, I just was expecting something else from that, but beyond that, this movie also does a really good job with that metaphor of showing how, like, nostalgia clouds your thinking, and nostalgia, like, clouds your memories of everything, which I guess is kind of into, like, the psychological horror aspect, because the whole idea is that the main character, Owen, played by Justice Smith, who I think might have been slightly miscast for this role. I think he was still fine. I don't know if he was necessarily the right pick for the role of this character of Owen, but I think he was fine. But this character of Owen, who I think is supposed to be seen as either on the spectrum of some sort, or possibly later on in the movie, possibly a trans character that never came out, or like never transitioned or anything, because there's some imagery in the film that kind of suggests that. But anyway, it's about him, about them. I'm just gonna say them. It's about them in their childhood, meeting this girl named Maddie, and they were played beautifully. Like Maddie was played beautifully by Bridget Lundy Payne. Had never seen this actress before, and they were great. I love them so much. But they were really good as the character of Maddie. But basically, Owen meets this character of Maddie and learns about this TV show called The Pink Opaque, which is like the best way to describe it. Think of it like a Goosebumps type of series, or it's like one of those like 80s 90s type series, where it's like a bunch of teenagers are like teamed up together to fight monsters and fight crime, or like fight monsters from like beyond the stars or whatever. So kind of like mixing like Power Rangers with like Goosebumps, I guess. It's like they have like psychic powers and stuff. They're gonna fight the evil monsters, and that's kind of cool. And I'm like, okay, that could also set up very nicely for like a cursed TV series thing for nostalgia. And like the clips we see of this show, The Pink Opaque, I thought were really well done, because it definitely hit that nostalgia button for me of like, oh yeah, this looks like a Goosebumps show from like the 90s, which I know because I've been watching them on this channel. Happy spooky season, everyone. We'll get the Goosebumps episodes. So it did hit like a nostalgia button for me for that, and that was very cool. And like it kind of hit some emotions for me of like, yeah, I remember watching these shows like, you know, on my couch or whatever as a kid, or like on my bed as a kid. Never hang out with people because I didn't do that as a kid because I was strange. But beyond that, so like I liked that stuff. But then as the movie kept progressing, like the first like hour or so of the movie, the first like half of the movie, I'd say, does a kind of a good job of this like psychological horror kind of thing, like it was trying to basically like it was presented as, of this like strange TV series that is that's like maybe messing with the minds of people who watch it. But then like the last hour of it got really confusing as to what the movie was trying to say. And again, if it was trying to say the metaphor of like being trans and not feeling comfortable enough to come out or transition, and I just missed that, then that's on me, and I completely understand that, and I completely understand if I missed that, and that's like what it was trying to go for. But for me, I feel like that could have also been delivered a little more clearly, just a little bit more clearly. But that, again, I'm not a filmmaker or anything, so I have no real say in this. Like, if this was what the director and writer wanted to do and make it like kind of more subtle, then that's fine, completely understandable. I like subtlety in movies as well. It's, again, going into this, I was expecting something different, and I got what I got, and it was fine. It was fine. But I think like the last half of the movie did do some things that were like, what are they trying to say here? Because they kept trying to do like the psychological horror stuff at that point, but it was getting really mixed with a lot of other things that were happening as well. And I'm like, I'm just getting kind of lost here as to like what is being said, or like what is supposed to be like the point. And then by the time we got to the end of it, I was really lost. I was like, wait a minute, what are we talking about here? Like, what is going on? And then like right as the movie started to get like really intriguing and like started kind of like hit like an interesting stride, I was like, okay, we got like maybe like 10-15 minutes left, right, of like explaining some things. It just ends, and I really don't like it when a movie does that, unless it's like on purpose, like unless we got like explanations of stuff prior to that, and it's just like, oh no, big cut ending of like to like emphasize something. This movie just kind of ends. It's just like kind of almost ends in the middle of a scene, and then I'm like, that's it? That's everything? And it, like, overall, this movie left me really, really disappointed from what I was expecting it to be. And again, that's probably my fault. But what I was expecting it to be and what I was like thinking or hoping it would be, I guess. But it gave me a lot of ideas of possibly writing some psychological horror stuff about a cursed TV series. That's a good thing, I guess. And that's the thing. That's the main takeaway, I think, for me when it comes to stuff like this. Where it's like, if you dislike a piece of art, then you're like okay to critique it as long as you are fair in the critique of it, and don't be an asshole and send like death threats or whatever to a creator. That's pointless and stupid. Don't do that. That's just putting you on a list somewhere and making it sure that you are just an asshole. But like, if you dislike a piece of art, dislike it for actual reasons for it, like I have mentioned here, like I just possibly just didn't get the metaphor of it when I was watching it. I went in with different expectations than when I was given. And that's fine. But then also take that critique or take that dislike for a piece of artwork and then try to turn it into something that you want it to be. Like, write something about it. Like, if you were like me and you saw this and you're like, I thought this was going to be like a Candle Cove type thing, then just go write your own Candle Cove type thing of like a cursed TV series. Go do that. Or it's like, if you get upset about someone being cast in a video game because it breaks your immersion, okay, go make your own video game then. Let's see how easy that is to do. But beyond that, I'm probably ruffling a lot of feathers here. My bad, everyone. But you know what? Also, not really. But yeah, before I get into like a full rant or anything, that's basically my thoughts on I Saw the TV Glow. I thought it was fine, but overall, compared to everything else I've watched this year, it was a massive disappointment to me. But I still support the writer-director. I still support Jane Schonenbrunn. Sorry for the name. Jane Schronenbrunn. I have said her name multiple times at this point. Their name multiple times at this point. Jane, you're great. You're great. I thought you didn't do a bad job here. It's just I was expecting something different, and that's on me. But I still think the movie is worth a watch at some point if you want to watch it, especially if like an A24 fan. A24 films are going to be like this anyway. They're very artistic, very psychological in every possible way. It's an A24 film. If you like A24, watch it. But that's my thoughts on the movie now that I talked about it for probably like 20 minutes. That was my thoughts on I Saw the TV Glow. And that was basically everything for this podcast episode. I think it was a pretty good one. I think it was actually pretty good. I actually had a nice longer episode of a podcast finally after like 3 months of shorter episodes because I didn't really have things to talk about because I've been busy. Yeah, it's fun. It's good to get back in here. It's good to get back into the swing of things and actually start having a schedule finally and actually like watching things and, you know, having my life be kind of on a good trajectory and a good pathway, you know? It just feels kind of nice, just overall. It just feels kind of nice to have like a schedule to do these things with. So expect the next episode next month. I would love to start doing these more often and start having more podcasts at some point, but I definitely want to have my schedule fixed first and my schedule mentally and physically actually figured out. But beyond that, I hope you all enjoy this episode of Minty Minutes, and I hope you all enjoyed my talking about these things and the fact I actually get to talk about some movies finally, and that we are now getting into spooky season because of the time of the recording of this and the time of the upload of this. It will be October. Recording not in October, upload will be October. It'll be like October 2nd, I think is when this uploads. But yeah, can't wait for spooky season. I'm very excited. Can't wait for the channel for you all to see the new Goosebumps episodes and stuff, and the new things we're going to be doing for spooky season as well. I'm excited. I'm very excited for all this because spooky season, I love October, I love Halloween, I love spooky season. So expect next month, hopefully a lot of reviews of horror movies, slasher movies, and other things coming out then like that. And also probably the new Joker movie because I'm going to watch that at some point. Just because. But either way, beyond all that, if you like the podcast, leave a like down below. Helps out in the algorithm, helps out a lot. And if you let me know down in the comments below if you've watched any of these things yet, or you have your take on any of these things. And if you've watched I Saw the TV Glow, I definitely want to hear your review of it. Please, especially if you liked it. If you liked the movie, I definitely want to hear your little reviews of it, please. So if you have watched I Saw the TV Glow, please tell me in the comments below what you liked about the movie, so I can read it and I can interact with them. But if you've seen any other movies I talked about, or have you seen like Agatha or Penguin yet, talk about that in the comments down below as well. I would love to interact with all of you about those things too. But yeah, so if you like the video, leave a like, comment down below. That always helps out. And if you want to help out the channel even more, go ahead and subscribe down below so you can be notified of all the videos that I upload, especially now during spooky season, where I'll be uploading hopefully on a regular schedule finally. I've been on a hiatus for a bit, but I should be back soon. I should be back relatively fine now, which is good. But yeah, subscribe down below. It helps out. Especially since we're on the pathway. I apologize for all the yawning. I am so sorry, everyone. But yeah, definitely subscribe down below. It helps out as we are on our journey to 1,000 subscribers, which we are getting close to that, and I'm hoping we can hit that by the end of the year, with the uploads coming soon. But beyond all that, if you want to see more from the channel, on the screen should be a playlist, something else you can watch. Go ahead and watch that as well. It'll be something for spooky season. It'll probably be Goosebumps this time, and then a video that YouTube recommends for you as well. And until next time, just stay lovely, everyone. Stay awesome, and I will see you next one. Until then, peace, everyone. Peace.